Welcome back to Movie Rewind. Today I will tell you about an action, crime, drama movie from 2003 titled Basic. Spoilers ahead, watch out, and take care. An army helicopter circles over the Panamanian jungle amidst heavy rain and winds. Sergeant West briefs a squad of 6 Ranger trainees, as they prepare for a training exercise. He tells the group that they will be carrying live ammo for this exercise, and he reminds the trainees to keep their safeties on. 17 hours later, the squad has missed their pickup window and lost contact with the base. Colonel Stiles returns in the chopper to investigate. The pilot spots one of the soldiers being carried through the jungle and looks for a place to land. Another soldier shoots at them, and is killed in the return fire. Back on base, Ray Dunbar is being interrogated by Captain Julia Osborne. Dunbar refuses to talk but writes on a notepad that he will only speak to a fellow ranger, someone outside of the base. At the bottom of the paper, he writes the number 8 and circles it. Stiles reaches out to a friend and experienced investigator, Tom Hardy. Hardy is a former ranger who previously served under Sergeant West, before being pushed out of the military. Now an agent for the D.E.A., he is currently being investigated for bribery charges. Hardy and Osborne have 6 hours until the 2 survivors are transported to Washington, at which point they'll have no further involvement in the case. Aware of his reputation, Osborne is skeptical of Hardy and questions why he was brought in. Despite the rough exterior, Hardy earns Dunbar's trust by displaying his ranger tattoo. He also notes that he too served under Sergeant West, but hated him, which gets Dunbar to open up a bit. Dunbar says that West was particularly hard on one soldier in his unit, Pike. He refuses to say anything about the training exercise, but does confirm that West and the other 4 soldiers are all dead. Hardy and Osborne then visit the other surviving team member, Levi Kendall. As they're walking in, Hardy runs into Dr. Vilmer, an old friend who also happens to be Osborne's ex-boyfriend. Kendall, whose father serves on the Joint Chiefs of Staff, is in the hospital recovering from gunshot wounds sustained during the training exercise. Kendall speaks openly with them and begins telling his recollection of the events. Kendall starts by explaining that he is gay, which became known within his unit. His father used his influence to have Kendall transferred to another unit, which he claims West resented him for. On the helicopter, West split the 6 trainees into pairs, Dunbar and Mueller, Pike and Nunez, Kendall and Castro. Kendall claims that West silently threatened his life, and that he worried that he would end up a so-called training accident. Kendall then continues his story. He and Castro found West already dead, hit in the back with a military-issue phosphorus grenade. Nunez heard the blast and arrived on scene but claims she had been separated from Pike in the storm. The 3 of them trekked to the bunker together, where Dunbar and Mueller had already taken shelter. Nunez showed the others that she was still in possession of her grenade, and Pike then arrived at the bunker where he admitted to killing West. The team tied Pike up and agreed to report him when they got picked up the next morning. Overnight, Pike appealed to Kendall, hoping to find an ally due to their mutual hatred of West. Pike wanted to kill Mueller and Nunez, then blamed them for the crime. He said the rest of the team could be depicted as heroes, the ones who took down Sergeant West's killers, they just had to tell the story right. Kendall refused, but later saw Pike whispering to Dunbar, presumably with the same plan. Dunbar then unholstered his pistol and aimed it at Mueller. Kendall intervened and the shot hit Castro. Castro opened fire with his rifle, killing Pike and Nunez, and injuring Kendall. Dunbar carried Kendall out of the bunker, with Mueller pursuing them as observed from the pickup chopper. Hardy and Osborne then reconvene with Dunbar, sharing what Kendall had told them. Now implicated in several deaths, Dunbar has little choice but to tell his side of the story. Dunbar is adamant that he didn't shoot West. He says that Mueller and Castro were distributing numerous prescription drugs to soldiers on the base, with Kendall involved. Hardy dismisses the claim, pointing out that he didn't say anything until he was accused of murder, which provokes Dunbar to tackle him. Fed up, Hardy is prepared to leave but recalls Dunbar denying that he shot West. Kendall had claimed that West was killed by a phosphorus grenade. Dunbar calms down, and Hardy returns to hear the remainder of his story. A grenade had been detonated, but it was a gunshot that killed Sergeant West. Dunbar heard the blast and joined the 3 others at West's body. They traveled to the bunker together, where they found Mueller alone. Pike arrived shortly after, and they discovered that only his grenade was missing. That night, Dunbar was on watch while the others slept. Pike started whispering to him, maintaining his innocence. He showed Dunbar a syringe full of drugs, which Mueller had sold him. Pike continued, saying that his grenade could have been taken before they deployed from the helicopter. He pointed out that Mueller had disposed of his shirt, and that whoever killed West would have gotten blood on their person. Pike theorized that West found out about the drugs, so Mueller killed him, knowing that everyone would assume Pike did it. Believing his story, Dunbar went to cut Pike loose, when Mueller woke up and notified the rest of the squad. Pike continued making his case, so Mueller shot him. A standoff ensued, which led to Castro and Nunez being killed as well. Dunbar carried Kendall to safety and killed Mueller, who was chasing them, in self-defense. To support his claim, Dunbar pulls a syringe from his pocket, and identifies Dr. Vilmer as the one supplying the drugs. Now fuming at the idea that Vilmer may have been supplying drugs while they were involved, Osborne drives back to the hospital. She confronts Vilmer about the claims, and when he refuses to answer, Osborne hits him in the face with a phone book, breaking his nose. Vilmer admits to supplying the drugs, and falsifying the soldiers' drug tests, and is taken away by the military police. Nevertheless, Hardy remains skeptical that he would risk a mandatory 20-year sentence to distribute some prescription drugs. Back at the base, Colonel Stiles considers the case closed. Osborne wants to dive further into Kendall's involvement, but Stiles forbids it, citing Kendall's father as the reason. Hardy, under no obligation to follow his orders, returns to the hospital, and Osborne joins him. They question Kendall about the discrepancies in his story and his involvement with Vilmer, but his behavior is erratic, rolling around in the bed and giggling loudly. Hardy then notices blood coming from Kendall's ear, and he begins vomiting large amounts of blood before flatlining. As he's dying, Kendall uses his bloody finger to draw an infinity symbol on Osborne's palm. Hearing what happened, Stiles arrives and relieves Osborne of duty. As she walks out, Osborne pulls out the crumpled piece of paper that Dunbar had written the number 8 on. She tilts her hand vertically and realizes that the infinity symbol that Kendall drew is actually the numeral 8. Hardy then explains the significance. A group of ex-Rangers, reportedly trained by West, are rumored to have gone rogue, and now operate as a criminal organization. Their extensive training gave them a significant advantage over their competition, and the faction known as Section 8 has become an urban legend around the area. They stop by Vilmer's holding cell and he makes a comment about flying out on the same aircraft as Pike. Hardy corrects him, noting that it's Dunbar that he'll be traveling with, but Vilmer repeats himself. Somewhat confused, Vilmer says that Ray Dunbar is black. Meaning, the person they have been questioning all night is Pike. Hardy and Osborne arrive back at the base just as Pike is boarding the transport plane. Hardy stops him from boarding and presses his face towards the moving propeller, causing him to pass out. Now aware that they are talking to Pike, they listen to his revised story. Pike says there was a larger drug operation that West found out about. The group distributing painkillers was also using military supply lines to traffic cocaine into the United States. West confronted them in the bunker, where Mueller attacked him. Kendall drew his weapon as West held Mueller hostage. As they debated what to do, West disappeared, and Nunez went out to look for him, getting shot in the process. About an hour later, Kendall and Pike found Dunbar dead. Pike removed his dog tags and Kendall was then shot by West. As he was giving Pike the opportunity to turn himself in, West was shot and killed by Mueller. The rest happened as previously described. Pike carried Kendall to the pickup location, Mueller pursued them and got killed in the process. To verify his story, Pike provides the shipping information for one of the crates containing cocaine. Finally, feeling a sense of closure, Hardy joins Colonel Stiles in his office and they share a drink. Hardy says he is a bit surprised that West didn't immediately notify him upon learning of the cocaine operation. Stiles asks him if he thinks Pike is lying, and Hardy replies, "No, I think you are." Hardy says he believes that West did tell him, but instead of acting on it, he had Mueller and Kendall kill West, then poison Kendall to cover his tracks. Stiles laughs at the absurdity of the accusation, as Osborne eavesdrops on their conversation. They share a laugh, until Hardy gets up to leave and Stiles offers him a third of the operation. He then reveals why Hardy was called in. If things ended up going south, he always felt that Hardy could be bought as a last resort. Hardy says he'll think about it and Stiles prepares to shoot him, but Osborne sees the gun and shoots Stiles through the office window. Soon after, the investigators wrap up their interview and Hardy brings Osborne a coffee. As they part ways, Hardy tells her not to worry about it, she just has to tell the story right. The phrase resonates with Osborne as both Pike and Kendall use the exact same phrase when sharing their version of the events. She follows him to a location just off the base and sees Pike get into Hardy's jeep. Now certain that something is going on, Osborne tails them back to Panama City, where they enter a building together. Thinking they are responsible for West's murder, She follows them inside and confronts Hardy with her gun drawn. As she's accusing him, West emerges and sits down at the table, joined by Castro, Dunbar, and Nunez. They explain that Section 8 is a covert anti-drug unit within the military. The circulating stories only serve as cover for their operation. Osborne asks what happens now and West offers her a job. Osborne opts for a drink while she mulls it over. As Castro passes Hardy a beer, he addresses him as Colonel, indicating that Hardy never left the army for the D.E.A. Okay guys, thank you for watching. Please leave a like on the video, and subscribe to see more.